Okay, well, my name is Jared Garner. I grew up here in Orem. I love everything about the outdoors, and any opportunity I get, I want to spend time in the outdoors. I grew up playing sports and everything like that, but my true love has always been the outdoors and photography. And wow, the national parks in Utah are some of the best in the world. Like as far as from what I've traveled to and seen, I know I've been to Zion National Park probably 5 or 6 or 7 times, and then Arches I've been to probably a dozen times. I really love that one because from where we are, it's a really easy trip down to there to go hike and see stuff, and there's some really good secret hidden spots that you can go to there that people don't know about, and you basically have it to yourself. And then, like, as far as the others, Capitol Reef I've only been to a few times, and then Canyonlands I've been to twice, and Bryce Canyon I've been to a bunch because it's a real easy stop along the drive south headed towards Arizona or any place like that. So I really just enjoy getting to them as much as possible. I spend a lot of time outside of parks as well, and that's where I spend most of my time, but the parks are still beautiful, and they definitely are something that people have to get out and look into. And like, maybe hike the trail that's less traveled. You can always hit up the trail that, like, you go to Arches, everybody wants to hike to Delicate Arch, but maybe take a different trail, find something that people aren't as interested in, like the Fiery Furnace, and you can get a guided tour into there, and you go in and you're hiking through, and you have to hike across some rocks and stuff, and you get in and the guide takes you and shows you a few places and stuff like that. But after you've been on it once and had a guided service, you can go in by yourself, and there's so many places and tunnels and like things to explore. And like, I almost got lost in there one day because there were so many back and forths, and I ended up having to jump off of one rock down to another and hike out and around, and it was incredible. It was a great experience, and I made it out, and it was cool. I saw 3 new arches in there that I had no clue existed in there. So yeah, that's that kind of stuff that draws me back. If I had to pick out of all of the parks that we have here in Utah, my favorite park would be Capitol Reef. A big reason is because I have some situations, you know, like where I like to be away from people more than be really crowded area. And Capitol Reef is one of the least crowded areas. And there's some really awesome hidden hikes down there. I mean, there's one that's not even on the map, the park map down there, and it may be my favorite like hike. My favorite destination hike may be Havasu Falls in the Grand Canyon, but my favorite hike, as far as hike, may be this one that's there, and it's called Sulphur Creek. And you start the hike, and it's a 5-mile hike, and you park your car at one end, and you hopefully can get a ride from the other end back to your car. But you hike, and you start in this dry canyon, you're like, oh, this is kind of, then it connects to this little creek, and you take the creek, and the canyon wall is narrow, and I mean, you hike, and there's 3 little waterfalls as you go down, and it's just beautiful, and literally no one there. Like the last time I was there, for example, because I didn't see a soul in the time it took me to hike 5 hours, and I had to take a bath because I had been in the outdoors for almost a week. So I just soaked up in one of the waterfalls and took a shower, and then hit the other few waterfalls and got some pretty pictures, and it turned out great. So, and that's my favorite park because you can do that. I mean, there's a set of narrows it's kind of spread out, it's really long, and like the main section everybody goes to, they drive through, and it's really gorgeous, and there's a ton to see. But then there's also 2 other sections of the park, north and south areas, that people hardly ever get to, and one of them is called like Cathedral Valley, and it has the Temple of the Sun and the Temple of the Moon, and watching the sun rise up and like hit the Temple of the Moon and the Temple of the Sun, so it's coming down them, and just the way they, from a certain angle, the way they glow back at you is something out of this world, you know. And it's like, is it real life? So yeah, Capitol Reef would be my favorite park. when I go to each of the different national parks, there's different things I like to do at all of them. Like in Zion, I love to do anything that involves water. So if you can go into, I can't remember the name of it now, but I remember the old name, but they changed it. It was called Toby's Hole, and it's a fishing, or not a fishing hole, it's a big water hole, and you can go in and you can hike in. It's a short little hike. You can jump in the water, and then there's always the hike to Angel's Landing, but the Narrows is beautiful. That's one of those you can't miss. The subway, you have to put in a permit to try to get into that, and that is an incredibly beautiful area and stunning, and I haven't been in there for far too long, and I need to go in there with a good camera and get some real good shots. But then you go to like other parks and you want to do different things like Arches. You want to get out. For me, I want to get out and hit up the areas that people aren't at, like some of the Arches. There's a dirt road you can take that takes you to Arches that are further away from the main crowds, or you can take the longer loops that hike out. The really neat thing is like even in Capitol Reef and Canyonlands, you can hike to these places that there's so much history there, like with like pictographs and petroglyphs. There's in Capitol Reef used to be an old wagon trail that they came through, and if you hike that road, you're like, how in the world would someone get a wagon through here without like destroying it? And there's a wall where they've like written their names and the years, and so it kind of has like, and so you're actually like get a lot of like our history. And American history doesn't go that far back, but you get some of that really neat like moving west history. And for me, I've always said I should have grown up in the era where I could have been a mountain man on a horse wandering the west. And yeah, that history is really neat to me. So it's like going to a petrified forest and walking through and thinking like, this is millions of years ago that this kind of thing happened. And so I like the history. I like to dive into that a little bit. I like to, when I go to a new area, I always try, like I've been there numerous times, I like to look up and try to find new experiences to experience. So, and it's still good to go back to some of the other ones here or there and just relax. And like this last year, I went into Delicate Arch again for the first time since I was 12 years old. And because there's way too many people. But I found this little side trail and it goes off, and where most people go and they take a picture back of the thing, you can see there's like a cliff and it falls off, and then there's like this point. And I actually photographed from the point the sunrise come up across the arch, and it was gorgeous because no one else was over there. I was all by myself, and it was an angle. It was in the winter time when it's less crowded, which is my advice to anyone. Travel to the national parks in the off seasons, because that's when you really have it to yourself. And yeah, so I was sitting there watching the sun come up, and I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna have to hurry and go and do all this other stuff. And it was so beautiful, I couldn't move. I just like taking it in, I took hardly any pictures. Like sometimes you just get in awe of a moment and you can't take the photo. It's like not everything has to be photographed all the time. Like I love to take pictures and I love to go in and do all of that stuff, and that's something that started at a very young age for me. It actually started because my mom got me into it, because she did photography courses in college, and so she kind of gave me like this little camera, and I love taking pictures and everything. And then I got into it in junior high and high school and started taking, and my teacher, I remember my junior high teacher was a really great teacher, and he pushed us to go out and do something, like photograph something that you wouldn't normally see photographed, or look at something in a different light. And he would show us a picture from around this local area, because we're junior high kids. He's like Orem High, and it had the photos from and he wanted like a different angle or a different shot of like Orem High. And so we actually went over to Orem High and got shots of like the students in between classes, but from an angle down at the level of the ground, like showing them walking and stuff. And so it just kind of showed us a different way to look at things. And then in high school, What I really loved was getting in a dark room and developing your own things, and which we don't do anymore because everything's digital. But I got challenged. There was a photo contest that our teacher there inspired us to enter, and I entered, and I won, which was really neat because I was a high school kid and I was entering with all people from all of Utah, and it became the cover of a magazine for the state of Utah for that year, and I won like $1,500, and it basically, and I had to write an article with it, and the article and the photograph basically got me an A without doing anything else in English for the whole term, so it was awesome. So, but then I kind of got away from it for a long time, and then you get caught up with life and growing up and getting a job and doing all of those things, and it disconnects you a little bit. I've always had the connection with the outdoors, still go to the outdoors and have a camera and take it and just take a random picture like, oh, this is pretty, click, but not like where I'm setting up a camera and I'm adjusting the settings or reading the light, or I hadn't gotten back into that until I was involved in an accident. I got involved in this accident and I fell off a roof at work one morning. It had just started to get cold. I slipped and fell and basically destroyed my body. And it's still destroyed. This was 3.5 years ago, and it was around 30 feet. I fell off a roof. And they actually told my family. I don't know if who all they told, but they told my family to basically say goodbye the first night. And I didn't know that until 2 years later. My family wouldn't tell me. No one told me. And I'm not capable of a lot of things anymore. I have some severe chronic pain from it. I wake up every morning. My minimum pain level is a 6. And even just from holding my head up like this for the day, by the time I'm ready to go to bed, I'm at a level 9 in my neck. That's how much I hurt without pain pills. And I have to take pain pills. And then I broke 12 vertebrae in my back. I herniated discs and bulging discs. I had a lacerated kidney and liver, and just a lot of things that, weren't supposed to. They've left me still kind of unable to do stuff. And I also have PTSD from it, and that affects my life in more ways than you could ever imagine. The other day, I actually went on a hike just because of my love of the outdoors and trying to share it with other people. I took my nephew and 3 of his friends, and we went up and hiked to Stewart Falls locally here, which is a great place for someone who wants to start hiking. Go try that out. Go do that, because it's a fairly easy hike. It's got some up and down, but it's a beautiful area. And we went into there, and then we went back and we went to Sundance just to buy those suckers on the sticks, and there were too many people and too much noise, so I had to get out and get away from all the noise and everything. And I had to take medications to help me be able to be around people. I've had to get up and leave restaurants even after I've ordered, and I just leave my cash there for the food. Even though I never get the food, I just leave because I can't handle it. The people I should be the most comfortable around, family and stuff like that, I still have a hard time doing stuff. My family does a huge Christmas thing, and I have to be medicated to be around it, even though I know every single one of those people loves me, and they show it in every way possible, and it just really kind of shuts down a lot of things in life. And so I hit these times where the anxiety and the depression from the anxiety and everything just really kicks in, and I have to fight or flight, they call it. And for me, flight is the one I prefer, because that gets me out to where I want to be anyways. I've always joked growing up that I could live in a cave. That'd be awesome. That's always been my thing. So, so that's been the easiest one for me. And yeah, so there's a lot there that you don't like to admit. Like for me, I've always been a really independent person, and PTSD has shut me down so much that like I can see how veterans could come home and not be able to function and end up homeless because they can't deal with things. You can't cope with stuff. I had to give up my power of attorney because I can't function. I can't deal with any of that. I shut down. I lost my home. I now live in the basement of my sister's. And it's hard to admit that because it's basically admitting defeat or failure. And so sometimes it would be easier to just disappear on the road and, you know, go find a place to live. But yeah, well, you still have to do things. But the flight has definitely led me to reconnecting with nature. That thing that I had lost in the runaround of regular life, like trying to get, you know, working hard enough to pay the mortgage and your car payments and all the bills, and then trying to find a woman who would like you enough to want to marry you, because there's not enough of that kind of pressure around here in Utah. But but then you just deal with all of that. And I was always super independent, you know. I was the type where when I was a young kid, like, no, Mom, I'll go to the doctor's myself, but you got to ride your bike there. Like, yeah, that's fine. So you don't need to come. Don't waste your time too, you know. So like super independent. Now the only stuff I can really do for myself is stuff to get ready to get out of town. So, which luckily I have coming up again this week. And I was just out of town last weekend. But with all of that, the only connection I've been able to really regain, like completely, is with nature and going out and like just, you're in an incident like that where you almost die and it's like, I haven't seen everything I want to see. I haven't seen cultures I want to see, met people, and you know, and so it makes you want to go out and explore before things are gone. And like I get asked a lot about Arches. If I had to recommend a hike in Arches, because I have my Instagram page and a ton of followers, and they all follow, and they ask, I freely answer like, hey, go here, go there. I want people to go and experience the parks the way I have and enjoy them and have the best experience possible. I just had a girl from Oklahoma come over and went through the Mighty Five, and she asked me what she should do at each park, and she did that, and then she varied it a little bit to some of her own needs or wants. And I always recommend going and go see Delicate. I mean, I know it's popular and huge. If you haven't been to Arches, go see Delicate. If you haven't been to Arches, go see Landscape Arch, because Landscape Arch to me is the one that's the next to go. Like, that's the next one that looks like it's gonna collapse. So, and it's beautiful and it's long. It's supposed to be like the longest arch in the world. And so that's always my recommendation there. And then I always recommend Angel's Landing in Zion National Park, because that hike is incredible. You get up there and there's spots where it's super narrow and they've got chains and you're holding on to chains, and literally, for someone who fell off a roof, you'd think I'd be scared to death of it. But I mean, what happens if I fall now? I can't cheat death twice. So, but you know, it's also like between 11 and 1,300 feet. So good luck surviving that. But yeah, and so like it's a challenge. It'll challenge you both mentally and physically. It's not that long of a hike, but it gives you one of the most beautiful views of that area. Now, that's not my favorite hike in that area, but my favorite hike is actually, you take the East Rim Trail in Zion and you take it for a long ways, and then you end up at an observation point and it overlooks Angel's Landing and all of those. And there are way less people, way higher altitude, some more uphill, some sketchy spots. And then I like Hidden Canyon a lot in that park. And had it not been for that accident, I wouldn't have reconnected with that, and I wouldn't have reconnected with photography. I just got in the run of doing the construction work, and like I did construction, come home at the end of the day and you're tired, and do what I needed to around the house and get ready and go back and do it again, and would travel whenever I could. And I had a really great job. I loved my job, but like, I have found my love again for photography and shooting, and so it's been one of the major blessings, really, is to show me more. Like, there's a lot more to life. There's a lot of things that we all get caught up on. Like, if we have this or that, that really doesn't matter. Like, since my accident, I've sold a bunch of my stuff that, like, why in the world did I waste all my money to buy all this stuff that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things? And I've been trying to share that with my nephews and my niece, and trying to get them to see it, and then like share it with other people on Instagram. And my Instagram page is actually a super coping mechanism. Like, I started finally going to therapy for the PTSD, and one of the first things they wanted to teach you was to find a way to coping mechanism. And as they were describing it, I was like, well, I kind of use Instagram in the way you're describing. And so because of that, I've shared pictures on there, and now I'm up to 18,000 followers from not much in a little over a year, maybe a year and a half now. And it's all just because that was my place to go to when I would struggle the most. I could just get on Instagram and disappear into somebody else's world for a little bit, see their trips, see their journeys, also see like what kind of shots they got. Ooh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna get that in Arches, So, but yeah, that's been a really, really key instrument for me. Like, I think if other people spend a little bit more time going out and trying to like spend less time getting caught up in the who's dating who or what's on TV, or spend some time away from their phones that everybody has nowadays, and just go out, and it really teaches you something about yourself. Like, for me, I've done some hikes that physically are really hard and leave me hurting for a week. I just got back from a weekend at Havasu Falls, and we did more than 24 miles of hiking in 2 days, and it took me 5 days to recover, and before my back finally started to feel okay. And that was even with the help of a helicopter taking my pack out, so I didn't have to pack it, just water. But I think really for other people, it could be a huge thing if they go out and just locally hit up a trail, hike into the waterfall up here in Pleasant Grove, and go take in the beauty of it, and not necessarily to post it to Instagram or share with their friends like, oh, look at me, I've been here or I've been there, which kind of feels awkward because of my Instagram page, but that's not what I do it for. I actually do it because, like the Instagram thing, because it pushes me to be out more, and it pushes me to connect more. And so I don't want to leave my audience hanging for too long, so now I've got to go do another hike, and then that other hike gets me out there and it revitalizes me in a way. And I mean, I've had serious bouts with depression, as far as being suicidal, through all of this, because my life is not anything at all what it was like before. And those thoughts come into your mind and makes you want to, is life really worth living if this is what my life is like now? And so it really is a huge thing to find something, to find a connection. And I think going to the national parks and seeing the beauty of it and the majesty of these areas. The reason why these areas are protected is because they're so amazing. And you may have to deal with the crowds, and you may have to deal with the people, and sometimes, like Zion, you have to ride a bus with a bunch of other people. And I put earphones in because I don't and I'll listen to some soothing music, or I'll go stand next to a waterfall so I don't have to hear everybody else talking. It silences them, and it allows you to be in your own head, in your own space, and it allows you to breathe that fresh air. And it's something that really can make you feel like a lot more peaceful. And I think if more people realized that, they would get out more and get away from the rat race of life. So yeah, I would recommend it to anyone. I think for me, if somebody were to really want to kind of get out into it, like I'm saying, and go out, and there's actually this really neat app, and I started with this app, and it's called All Trails. And I don't have any connection to All Trails or anything like that, but it shows you every little trail that's around you, and it tells you the mileage, it has other people's reviews and stuff like that. And it turned out to be an app that really kind of got me just hiking close. Like, start hiking close. Go hike. I mean, and say if you live in Utah or you live in anywhere, just go hike somewhere close. There's always somewhere to go get into the outdoors and hike and get away from the noise of it all. Go hike along a river. Go drive away a little bit further than where you see everybody else hiking along the river, so you're more secluded and you have that connection. Or go hike into a waterfall, or go hike the Y. That's a good one. I mean, there's people always doing it, but you can go up there and sit and look over the valley and think, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, and it gets you out of it for a little bit, you know, out of the regular world. And so you can kind of start there and then build up. And like, for example, my little sister is wanting to get back into hiking, like hiking more and stuff like that. And so she's always saying, hey, where do you want to go today? You know? And so unfortunately she said that this week and I was too sore to go, but I recommended just an easy, short, easy hike up here that we could go do, and it gives you a really good view of the valley. And once you get up there, you're kind of away, and then once you kind of get that bug, it grows in you more and more, and you want to see more and more. And I mean, for me, I started back up with just going here, and then I ended up going camping to one of my favorite spots, where I go on a family camp out every year, where we call it the He-Man Woman Haters Club. And and then I decided to go down early, and National Park was right there, and I was like, you know what, I haven't been there in a while. So I went down and did the secret hike, and I was just like, okay, I got to get back into this. And that's kind of, you'll find that one hike or one thing after you start, it's kind of like, okay, this gives me the motivation to get out and do it again. And then since then, I went on a 2.5-week trip to Canada, to multiple national parks up there, where I saw some of the prettiest things I've ever seen in my life. And then, of course, I've hit up all of the Utah national parks since then. You know, it was like, I need to get back out to these. And then now I've got a really nice camera again, so now I want to go back to all the spots I've been recently and then hit all of those up. And I've seen the Grand Canyon, and that was something I had been into Havasu Falls before, and that's part of the Grand Canyon, but like, that's not the Grand Canyon National Park. I had never been to the national park and the overlooks. And so I ended up at the Grand Canyon National Park, and I actually ended up listening to the Cubbies win the World Series at this camp. My fire pit, I'm sitting at a fire pit. I'm outside the national park, just outside the borders here. I'm overlooking the east rim of the national park, and 20 feet from my fire pit, straight cliff opens up to the national park. And I'm listening to the Cubbies win the World Series, you know, for the first time in 100 years or whatever. So it was really neat. It was like, I never would have expected to have been in a spot like that. And I wouldn't have been if I hadn't gotten this love for going back out. And really, Capitol Reef was the one that started it, like, okay, you need to get back out and see these national parks. And so I hit up all the Utah ones again, and yeah, they're beautiful, and I need to spend more time in them now that I have my camera that I like. It's heavy, packing it around and the tripod, but it's worth it when you get the pictures and you get to look at them later.